The chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, University of Ibadan, Professor Ayoola Akinwole, has said that the federal and state government must resolve the conflict between Nigerian government, the working masses, and Nigerian students in the university system. The ASUU boss noted that the government needs to resolve these conflicts by addressing the concerns of all three groups and prioritizing the development of Nigeria's education sector. Professor Akinwole stated this while presenting the 556th inaugural lecture entitled Aquaculture Engineering, Reconciling the Balance in the Trade of Fish, Plants and Man at the University of Ibadan. Wow, reconciling the balance of fish, trade and man, right?
Yeah,
all of that.
Fish, plant.
Okay, and man. Yeah. And according to him, the conflict stems from insufficient allocation of resources to education, leading to inadequate infrastructure, poor facilities, and outdated curricula. Allegations of corruption and mismanagement of funds within the education sector is another thing that wants to be addressed. Increment in tuition fees, making education unaffordable for many students, poor living conditions in hostels and academic buildings, inadequate health care, and lack of support services for students, workers' rights and benefits, disputes over workers' rights, salaries, and benefits, leading to strikes by academic and non-academic staff, government interference in university affairs, appointments, and policies. Let's take these challenges one after the other. He has talked about government interference. He has talked about staff welfare. Yeah. He has talked about the buildings and academic buildings and hostels that the students stay.
Allocation of resources.
You know, he has talked about a lot of the challenges that the education sector faces. And when you look at the education sector and look at some of these challenges, you see that some of the challenges are really basic. And they are not things that we should talk about. Yeah. Like the hostels, like where the students stay. This is not something that we should have a roundtable meeting before we know that the students should stay in a conducive environment. Yeah. So let's look at it holistically now. ASUU addressing the federal government and saying, address the issues of this sector.
Any?
Yes.
I must tell you that the issue of ASUU advising or recommending to the federal government what to do is no longer news. Is something that Nigerians shouldn't be talking about.
Sure.
I still recall those days when we were in school. You know, you see students, Nigerian students, sitting on the floor to learn. And I want to believe that same practice is still going on. If I should take a walk, you know, to maybe nearby institutions, maybe you see some year one students.
You know, sorry to cut you, but when you mentioned that, right, I was taken aback. I'm like, sitting on the floor to learn. Why and how? But you know, I took my mind back to when I was in school. And I realized that this is actually true. Okay. But you know, the students have gotten so used to it that they don't think it's a problem anymore.
I'm telling you, is almost like normal in the school environment. What nursery school children, the secondary school children shouldn't even do, but is happening, you know, in our
especially during GS courses.
Exactly. So it's not. I'm just dumbfounded and shameful and ashamed. I shouldn't say of myself, but somehow ashamed of the federal government policies on education. The issue of enacting policies in this country, personally, I'm no longer comfortable with it. Because if you talk about policy enactment, Nigerian government is very good at that. Not just the current administration, but from when we started following up politics and policies of the country. You know, Nigeria is very good at that. But when it comes to implementation, that is where the problem lies. And I keep asking one question. What ASUU has been asking, even prior to the time we gained admission into higher institution, we've been hearing of ASUU. Then in secondary school, I will hear, you know, ASUU strike. Some of my aunties, my uncles, they will no longer go to school. They say they are on strike. We didn't understand very well until when I also gained admission. We're now probing what is this.
So you experienced the strike too?
Sure.
How long did it make you stay back at home?
Mine wasn't more than, it wasn't more than 6 months.
And that's still a long time.
Yeah, it is. It wasn't more than 6 months. You know, so this issue has been overheated, and the question I've been asking, why are these things difficult for the state, the federal government to do, or the government? If you take a closer study, you discover that it appears state government-based institutions seems to be doing better infrastructurally in terms of organization comfort than some of the federal institutions.
And why do you think that is the case?
Well, maybe because the state institution is closer to the people, the government directly runs it, and then federal has to cover the entire country, the federal institutions. But that shouldn't be the reason or an excuse. And that is why ASUU has continuously lamented on the poor nature of our infrastructure, academic infrastructures. I think it's high time the government attends to this. But the question I've been asking, why has this thing been very difficult for the government to do? If government is sincere, just like the prof said, if the government wants to really improve education, just like they have always said, then there is need to cut down certain expenses. We cannot be talking about prioritizing education and then permit me to say that an individual, a political office holder, is going home monthly with something that like 4 or 5 professors may not even go home with at the end of 3 months. You see the kind of vehicle that some of our politicians are driving, and then we're talking about prioritizing education, and students cannot sit down. Then that's high level of insincerity and deceit.
That means it's not really about any particular administration now, because you have made mention of the fact that it has been a long time coming.
Definitely, you too, and
you are aware. Has been we're working with your analysis. We're working with your analysis. It has been a long time coming, because even when we look at the ASUU and government agreement, we're looking at 2009. We're looking at that 2009 agreement, and the other day I had to carefully go through it, and I realized that the things that were agreed upon are still the things that ASUU are still complaining to date. And that's how many years ago. I won't, like you have said, one would wonder why we're not paying that much attention to education. And
yet every administration keep emphasizing that we're prioritizing education. And the same problem that ASUU has been lamented is still reoccurring. So
So what do we need? What do we need to do now? What do you think would be the way forward? I know ASUU keeps calling on the federal government, but then there have been some Nigerians that have said that there are times when the ASUU went on strike and then the federal government released funds to them. What happened to those funds? In fact, Nigerians don't even trust these people anymore with our. In fact, we don't trust anybody with our money.
Of course, that's the nature we have found out.
So is it just the federal government now that is are they the only ones playing the role in making our educational system to be where it is today?
No, I wouldn't subscribe to that. Even Professor Akinwole made mention of that too. He talked about mismanagement of resources.
Okay.
So the university personnel or the academics, the lecturers, those that makes up that university community has a major role to play when it comes to upgrading the standard of education in this country. Even though they feel that they are doing more than the federal government should do by their constant appeal or protest, But I would want to emphasize here that the practitioners has a major role to play. It's not all about providing the relevant infrastructure. How about the content?
True.
How about the content that is being issued out? I can still remember vividly during my school days, I I did computer course.
Okay.
But I never operated a computer.
And yet you did a computer course?
Yes, I did a computer course. I think that should be one of the GS courses. But I did not operate computer. You understand the point? I didn't operate computer. Now, not that there wasn't an ICT unit. You understand the point?
So what was
the government has provided the facility. There was an ICT unit then, but no access.
It was only used during exams.
You understand?
Okay,
So
did you even use it during the exams?
no, we did theory.
Okay, I think it was my time we used it during the exams.
Okay, during my own time, we didn't use computer during my time. Computer exam, we did theory. We wrote with pen.
But then when we when we talk about the classes now and the practical, you know, that's another aspect.
Yeah.
Practicals, especially in your field. Let's look at your field now, agriculture, in the educational sector, and practicals. I would not ask you during your time because I know you guys probably didn't even see the equipment. But let's look at what it is now. Would you say it's improving?
Yeah, it is. It is, but the issue of government interference too, in terms of appointment, you know, some of the policies is also making the system not to be consistent. You know, like during my time, we were exposed to some form of practical, but I must tell you for free that the practicals I did while in school, which were supposed to have prepared me very well to face the labor market, right? And to, you know, practice outside the university community. That's not what is carrying me along today. I'm telling you, if I should go by the practical I did in school, I think nobody in my area, nobody in my community or local government will know that love they studied agriculture. I had to come out and then humble myself, go to the farm, meet with people that operate farm, worked for free. Understand the point? So the issue of practical, especially for professional courses, should be seriously
no, we have farms in these universities. So what exactly is the problem with making these students get involved in practicals?
That is it. What's the capacity of the farm you have compared to the number of students offering that course? For instance, then when we are to practice a mushroom, you know, imagine we are like 50 students or 30 students will be exposed to a practical, and then there will be a kind of a segment that, you know, you man this section, you do this. There's nothing like you undertake or you engage in the process from beginning to the end. Believe me, till we graduated, maybe some persons didn't do one or two aspects of that particular production, involved in that production. And
they studied agriculture.
You understand the point? So that's the challenge. Even if there are farms, what's the capacity of the farm? What's the size of the farm? So that's the area that we need to also, both the government and those manning the faculty, the department needs to also upgrade. You know, so
no, we don't really hear this aspect of it. Whenever we talk about agriculture, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to analyze that. People would always say, oh, because there are no equipments, the equipments are not available for the students to practice. But now I'm hearing that not just the equipment, even the lands. Because how much do we really need for that to be done? Some of these universities have areas that are not being used or even touched. So what happens to allocating this to these departments for practicals?
Well, the issue of land, the lands are there, but if you want to grow crops, won't you buy the seedlings? You will buy the seedling, you need equipment.
What are they going to school for? Okay, what are they going to school for? What is the training? Is that not
at you? Because there are so many things.
That happens more when we have students who never wanted to be in that field in the first place. You know, these students that they just give you that course.
Yeah.
And I know that for some reasons there's this ideology or perception that, especially with the agricultural department, a lot of the people there did not apply for that course. Oh, why are you laughing? Can you relate? It seems like you can relate. Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And that's why some of us, I happen to be a victim of that. Let me say that here. I happen to be a victim of that. But I didn't want that to overshadow me. When I enter, I'm one person that always see the hand of God in whatever that happens to me, especially once I pray, you know. I didn't allow that to weigh me down. Most persons in the field of course, I did a study in that area. For the faculty, the department not to be admitting or not to accept people sent to them. You understand the point? Because it also affects the quality of persons that the faculty or the department produce. Yes, at the end of the day. So it's another challenge. It's a major challenge, but that challenge didn't...
But you fell in love with the course.
Sure.
Not everybody falls in love with it.
Exactly.
So there's this saying of, just go to school. Anything they give you, any course, just go to school. And that's why we're producing the kind of people that we're producing sometimes.
Yes, and at one institution too. If I happen to be maybe a dean of a faculty, if you did not put in that course, that's why from JAM you have choices, right?
Yes.
If you didn't apply for that, it has something to do on the long run. It affects the student. It's not every person that will have the courage, okay, let me just go back and write JAM. Don't admit, especially in the field of agriculture, which is where I'm coming from, is not something that should be commended, and it shouldn't continue. Agriculture faculty should not be used as a dumping ground. If you fail to get medicine, medical laboratory science, they push you to agriculture. Agriculture is a serious course, is a professional course, and must be appreciated, must be valued by those practicing it. I am very much, happy that I'm an agriculturist. I am fulfilled doing the job.
Could it be because we don't have so many people applying for that course, and that's why they're bringing in more people?
Yeah, that's one reason. Of course, the university environment and the government understands the role of agriculture in the society. If you look at the percentage of those applying for agriculture, especially those of us in this part of the country, SAT, is quite different when you go towards the northern part. You understand the point? But here in the south, you don't see much persons applying for agriculture. So the institution somehow, they move persons, so long as you're in science, they move you to agric. Let's use these persons to cover up that particular faculty. So it's not a good practice.
When they obviously do not have the capacity for that number of students.
Yeah, I had a friend, when we were in year 2, he had to pull out. He said, Loveday, this thing is not working. I need to go and do engineering. And believe me, today the young man is doing well as an electrical electronics engineer.
Wow.
He's practicing, he's doing very well. So that's how it should be. Passion should be the driving force. If you find yourself in the department and you know that the thing is not working, there is nothing wrong. The person can pull out, but it may be difficult because of this mindset that what you study doesn't matter. And you see that same philosophy is also affecting even our appointment, political appointment, where you take somebody that is not a professional and you fix the person into a professional ministry because what you study doesn't really count. And when you see them practice, when you see them, come up, when you expect them to come up with a significant policies and the initiative that will drive that particular ministry or department forward, you just get disappointed because of this same concept. So it should be discouraged.
All right, thank you so much, Loveday. Let us take some time off now. We'll go on a short break and we'll return. The conversation will continue. More stories for you. Please stay with us.